Episode 7 of the Westies starts with an undercover FBI officer busting Sean, one of Jimmy's guys, for waving around 8 ounces of coke in a strip club. With the drugs confiscated, the gang are caught on the back foot. With Sean in custody, Jimmy eventually admits to Eamon that he's been working with John Gotti in this drug deal. Eamon is pissed when he finds out, and tries to keep his cool. He demands they stop the deal with Gotti immediately, along with bringing in a solid lawyer in Victor Paulson to help Sean. At the precinct, Glenn and Poke oversee Sean's interview. Given he's never faced time behind bars before, the pair decide to try and flip him to work on their side. Glenn works the kid good, bringing up the hatred they have for the Italians and the benefits of avoiding jail time. Sean doesn't budge and instead asks for his lawyer. Well, this is where Paulson comes into it. Sean's odds do not look good, given he's facing around 25 years or so. The only solution is to cop a plea deal. 10 years, and then out with good behavior at 5 is the only thing they can go for. While this is happening, Mickey moves in with Aaron, but she's not budging from her role as a prostitute. She tells him she's her own woman, and Mickey gets his wires crossed when he believes she's given up this job for good. Only she doesn't. In fact, when another customer rocks up, Mickey knocks him out. Aaron is pissed and doesn't believe he's serious about his affection, but Mickey even offers to marry her. Meanwhile, Bridget has her contacts look into Brendan, and word is he got out of jail only 3 months after a 10-year sentence. Some suspect he may actually be an informant. However, Bridget remains dead set on following through with their plan to take out the Colonel. That night, Bridget comes up with an alternate mission that doesn't kill numerous innocents. She decides to honey trap the guy at his hotel, wearing a disguise to lure the Colonel in so she can kill the guy personally. Brendan clearly loves Bridget and tries to kiss her while she's ready to leave, and it shocks her. She stops him immediately and heads on out on her mission, where she gets talking to the Colonel at the bar. Back at Eamon's pad, Jimmy loses his temper and lashes out at Eamon and Eddie. He's confident that Sean will keep quiet, but the tension and cracks forming is just the sort of exposure Glenn needs to try and exploit. He talks to Poke about Jimmy's credentials and decides to use him to turn against Eamon. Glenn also decides Poke should go see Gotti with a bunch of feds, making something up, trafficking of cocaine, so they can plan a bug. It works a treat. Glenn speaks to Jimmy and warns that Eamon could have Sean killed behind bars. He also brings up Pat Murphy's death and how Eamon was behind it. This, of course, was Glenn's doing, but it's a pretty clever play. In the morning, Eamon shows up to see John Gotti. While Eamon is convinced Sean won't talk, Gotti is more concerned about what happens several years down the line. Big Paul has men on the inside, and if Sean mentions the coke deal between Gotti and Jimmy, that could go sideways real fast for them both. Eamon hadn't thought that through and realizes he may actually make Glenn's prophecy come true. He's going to have to take care of Sean. If he does this, it could turn Jimmy away from him for good. However, the bug has been planted, and as such, the feds capture audio evidence of Gotti and Sweeney planning Sean's murder. In front of the entire gang, Eddie shows and tells Sean that Eamon wants to see him. After some trivial goodbyes, Eamon has his men shoot Eddie in the head and bundle him in the trunk, eventually chopping him up. With Sean dead, Glenn takes the wiretapping audio and brings it to Jimmy, turning him against Eamon. Jimmy shows up to see Eamon next, who confronts him about Sean's death. Jimmy calls him a coward, and Eamon regretfully brings up how Jimmy doesn't have what it takes, and he wanted to try and mold the kid to take over eventually. Jimmy is pissed and holds him at gunpoint before eventually walks away, severing their ties, presumably for good. The ties between Jimmy and Eamon appear to be fully severed now, and there doesn't look to be any way back. This rivalry between the two has finally come to a head, but it's been slow going to actually reach this point. Glenn suddenly comes good as this crazy efficient cop after spending half the show moping about regarding Danny and not doing very much of importance. In fact, here he even takes charge of Poke and tells her what to do in this episode, which seems like a bizarre deviation given she's the one pulling the strings here. The situation involving Bridget continues to chew up screen time, and that plot has been entirely disparate to everything else going on. It feels designed to give Bridget something substantial to do, but to be honest, it doesn't really advance the story all that much. I can't help but feel it would have worked more effectively if it tied into the gang warfare in some way. Maybe a botched car bomb could have taken out some of Gotti's gang, who believe Eamon is responsible, and a fight breaks out that way. There's also the Mickey situation too, who's sidelined this chapter and hanging out with Aaron. This has been an ongoing plot thread, but it's not handled particularly well. It feels clunky, and given we're gearing up for the finale, I feel like he should have been there with Jimmy at the end in Eamon's office. Still, the battle lines have been drawn, and the ending sets everything up for what should be a dramatic conclusion to this tale.